In a small town in the American Midwest, where the morning mist still clings to the hills and church bells chime every Sunday at noon, there stood a modest little diner on the corner of Main Street. Its name was Daisy's Diner. Nothing fancy, nothing remarkable, but to the people who lived there, it was simply known as the second home. The wooden chairs had faded with age. The scent of fresh-baked pastries and roasted coffee lingered warmly in the air, and the soft hum of country music played endlessly from an old radio mounted on the wall. Every Saturday morning, at exactly 7:15, an elderly man would walk into the diner with a slow but steady gait. He wore a weathered grey fedora and a frayed military jacket, its shoulders and cuffs worn thin by time. No one really knew his full name. The owner called him the Silent Soldier, while the older regulars affectionately referred to him as the man with the old coat. He always sat at the same table by the window, where the morning sunlight slipped through the cloudy glass and settled gently on his deeply lined face. He ordered the same breakfast every week: an omelette, 2 crisp sausage links, and a black coffee. No cream, no sugar. He never changed his order, never asked for more, never came late. He didn't say much. In fact, beyond a small nod and a soft smile when the server brought his plate, he hardly spoke at all. No one questioned him about his past. People somehow understood that some memories were too heavy to lift, too deep to dig up, so they left him in peace, a living relic of the town's quieter days, resting calmly in the midst of a world that seemed to be speeding up all around him. Then one Saturday morning, as he sat in his usual seat like he always did, something felt different. The door swung open. 3 teenagers burst in hoodies, slouched over their shoulders, ripped jeans, wireless earbuds tucked into their ears, and voices a little too loud for the quiet room. They took a booth near the counter, but their eyes quickly landed on the old man sitting alone by the window. One of them, the tallest, with bleached blonde hair and a half-sipped backpack hanging from one shoulder, let out a laugh and whispered something to the others that sent the whole group into fits of giggles. "Look at that coat," the blonde one said, louder this time. "Looks like he pulled it out of a dumpster behind a war museum." His voice carried through the diner. A few heads turned. The laughter lingered for a moment and then died down. The old man kept eating, seemingly unfazed. But for just a flicker of a second, his hand holding the knife poised over his eggs paused. Then, with quiet composure, he set the knife down, dabbed his mouth with his napkin, lifted his hat, and rose slowly from his chair. The diner was unusually busy that morning, a soft hum of chatter and clinking silverware filling the air. Steam rose from coffee mugs. The smell of bacon and toast lingered sweetly. Everything about the moment was ordinary until the door opened. 3 teenage boys stepped inside, their presence like a gust of cold wind. Hoodies draped over their heads, jeans ripped more by style than time, sneakers squeaking on the linoleum floor. They talked too loud, laughed too easily, eyes darting across the room with that careless energy of youth. One of them, tall, with bleached blonde hair and mirrored sunglasses pushed onto his head, was clearly the ringleader. They slid into a booth near the counter. It didn't take long before one of them noticed the old man sitting alone by the window. He nudged his friend, then pointed with a slight jerk of his chin. "Check out the coat. What is that? Civil War surplus." The others snickered. Another chimed in. "Looks like something Abraham Lincoln would have worn to Gettysburg." Laughter erupted. Not the innocent kind. The sharp, mocking sort that makes the air feel thinner. One of them, phone in hand, lifted it subtly, angling the camera, toward the old man. He zoomed in as if capturing a museum exhibit, not a human being. None of them expected a reaction. That was the thing about youth. They believed themselves invisible, invincible, and infinitely clever. But the man heard. He always did. He didn't look up, didn't scowl. He simply set his fork and knife down on the edge of his plate, wiped the corner off his mouth with a cloth napkin, and reached slowly for his weathered grey fedora. His movements were calm, practiced, and dignified. He stood up, shoulders straight, despite the years clearly resting on his back. And then it happened. A small object slipped from his coat pocket, perhaps, nudged by the motion of him right, fell to the floor with a sound that sliced through the laughter. Like a razor dot clink, the diner went silent. The object spun slightly on the tile before settling. A medal, silver, heavy. It gleamed even in the muted morning light. Someone near the counter gasped, "Good Lord, that's a silver star." Even those who didn't know the name could tell it mattered. The medal had presence, weight, history, the diner's owner stepped out from behind the counter, eyes wide with recognition. He had served to Vietnam. He knew that medal, knew what it took to earn one. "Sir, ... were you with the 101st? Bastogne?" The old man turned slightly. Just a nod. Not theatrical, just true. He didn't need applause. The teenagers froze. Their earlier laughter dried up like a puddle in desert sun. The leader, the tall blonde boy, stepped forward, picked up the medal with both hands as if it might break. His voice was low now, uncertain. I'm sorry, I didn't know." His face, red with embarrassment, stared at the man's hands, weathered, veined, and still steady. The old man reached out, gently took back the medal, and tucked it carefully into his pocket. He looked at the boy, not with anger or pride, but with something deeper, an understanding that comes only from having seen too much. He tipped his hat, not a word, and walked toward the door. The bell above it jingled softly as he left. Nobody spoke for a long while after, and in that silence, something shifted, not just in the boy's heart, but in the hearts of everyone who had witnessed a quiet kind of greatness that didn't demand recognition, but left its mark all the same. The old man didn't speak. He didn't lecture, didn't scold, didn't try to make a point. He simply offered the boy a faint, almost weary smile. It was the kind of smile that comes from a place far older than age one earned in silence. In survival, in knowing that some lessons speak louder when no words are used at all. He took the medal gently, tucked it back into the inside pocket of his worn coat, adjusted his hat, and turned to leave. The bell above the diner door jingled once more, softer this time, as if even it understood the weight of what had just happened. No one followed him. No one dared. The room remained quiet long after he was gone. Later that day, word began to spread through the town like ripples across a still pond. Not because the old man had boasted, or because someone posted the moment online. It spread because everyone who had witnessed it felt something shift in them, something humble, something real. People remembered his face, his calm, the way he stood tall, not with pride, but with dignity. A few older customers began telling stories they hadn't told in years, about the war, about Bastogne, about friends who never came home, and how men like that old soldier had carried the weight of it all for decades without once asking for praise. By Sunday afternoon, a small but unexpected thing happened. The same three boys who had laughed so loudly the day before showed up at the local veterans cemetery just outside of town. No cameras, no fanfare, Just three teenagers, with trash bags, gloves, and garden shears, slowly clearing weeds and picking up debris between the headstones. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Something had changed. As for the old man, he never returned to Daisy's diner. Maybe he didn't want attention. Maybe he'd said all he needed to with that one quiet look. Or maybe, like so many of his generation, he believed that the greatest service one could give was to show up. Do your duty and then step aside so the world could move on. But he wasn't. Forgotten, his place by the window stayed empty for a while. The owner kept his usual table clean. One morning, a small frame appeared. There a faded photo of a young paratrooper in uniform. A folded flag behind him, and beneath it, a simple plaque that read, "Veteran, hero, humble," and every now and then, someone new would walk into Daisy's, glance toward that corner, and ask, who was he? And someone, usually a man with grey at his temples, or a woman with tears, just barely hiding behind her glasses, would smile and answer, he was the reason we're free. Because in the end, it wasn't the coat that made him a soldier. It was the scars no one saw, the battles he never spoke of, and the medal that said it, all without needing a single word. If this story touched your heart, please hit like, subscribe, and share this video with those who still cherish memories and honor the sacrifices made for freedom. On our channel, every week brings you a small but meaningful story about courage, humanity, and memories that never fade. Let's keep alive the values our fathers and grandfathers bled to protect. Subscribe now so you won't miss more stories like this.